Hello and welcome, everybody out there in Union Arena Land. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Today, we are going over some more of the FMA decks by special request in the comment section. Really appreciate you all putting in your input and letting me know what decks you are interested in seeing more of and what variations you want to learn more about as well. Today, we are looking at the Homunculus True deck. This is a fantastic deck to be able to pick up and start playing, super thematic and very fun to play as well. Though it does have a couple of synergies that we've seen before, it seems to capitalize on the get 20 into sideline feature much more greatly than many of the other decks do. Not really being forced to self mill, just immediately put into sideline like some other decks in the format have. Instead, having the option to draw cards or look at the top and then put them into the sideline if you choose. It is a fantastic strategy, and we're going to start going over all of the basics. First things first, 42 triggers is where I feel most comfortable at. You can get this up to 43 triggers, but unfortunately, the two non triggers in the deck are, like all of the other decks in FMA, so pivotal to the actual strategy that I think they need to stay in there. We'll start by going over the zeros, though. We have the Raid Target Envy. It's the raid target Envy. What else do we need to know? We're going to play it because Envy is the card that we are raiding with. We have the raid target Lust. Though she is not a get trigger, she is a draw trigger, and on play, draw one, sideline one. A great card that's going to be very versatile to us, and considering we are running the purple color trigger, it is most of the time the second best card that you can get off of purple color trigger, if not the third, but that only happens once you reach mid game. We'll go over that in just a second. We also have Selim because, well, we need more triggers in the deck, and he helps fill out the slot. You could end up playing different cards over this one, but honestly, he's a 2K active trigger. I don't know what else you're looking to play over that. The first card that I run as a 4 of, but I honestly think you could squeeze it in only as a 3 of, depending on the strategy you are aiming for, is Father. When played, look at the top 3, you reveal a Homunculus, you add it to your hand, and then you sideline a card from your hand. If you didn't add a Homunculus to your hand, you don't sideline, though. It only being the top 3 kind of hurts a little bit. However, other than the event cards, there's only 2 cards in this current deck list that are not Homunculus. And I've tried playing more Homunculus over it, but unfortunately, the one card that isn't, it's so good for the Father backup plan that you end up just having to run it anyways. The next one we have is this Envy card. Anybody can raid over this Envy, and this deck has 2 unique raiders that both of them only have 8 raid targets. This allows Lust to be able to raid over top of it, and Lust has a fantastic synergy win sideline that is really going to capitalize this as well. However, the reason this card becomes incredible is in the mid game, when you have 10 or more cards in your sideline, when played, you get to choose one character with 3,000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. That is a fantastic feature, A, because you have a couple of different recursive effects inside of the deck to be able to pick it up yourself and play it on your turn, removing one of their blockers from play and being able to really push through additional damage. The other reason that is so good is because if you get color trigger in the mid to late game and your opponent has, some more things that they're going to be attacking you with, you can get this Envy back who can chump block a 4K, but also removing something that is 3K or less as a potential threat and attacker. It does force your opponent to sometimes have to play around this, and even if they are playing around it appropriately, you have other ones that have good win played abilities and 2s as well that really make this deck resilient and very happy to capitalize on that color trigger itself. Moving right along, we have Nina and Alexander. Some people say that you don't need to play this in your deck. They like running the site. I'll go over that when we go over honorable mentions and stuff towards the end. Personally, I think this card is bonkers levels of good. You look at the top 2, when played, you can put any number of them back on top and the rest into your sideline. And if she is raided, you then draw a card. Now, that line right there really hasn't come up for me in any of the playtesting with the deck, but in a pinch, if you need to raid, you can raid on top of the Envy. We have no other Nina raid targets because the only other one is a 0 without a trigger that we're not really that interested in playing. So fantastic card. This is the reason that Lust is the second best thing to get back with a color purple trigger, because honestly, if you can choosing between draw a card and sidelining one and getting back Nina, looking at the top two, milling those, and then chumping with Nina again, I honestly like to go with Nina because that really pushes you to the 20 threshold, which we have a massive payoff for coming up soon. Moving right along, we have the color trigger, Lust. When played, look at the top card of your deck. If it's a homunculus, add it to your hand. If it's not a homunculus, you can either leave it on top of your deck or put it into your sideline. It is an absolute banger of a card. Most of the time, you are hitting. There's only 13 cards in this deck that are not homunculus. Yeah, that's pretty damn good if you ask me. So she's going to be able to very frequently be a double energy producer on the back line, and her win playability is so very powerful you don't even feel bad about raiding over top of her with Lust, because Lust has a unique ability that when she's sidelined, you pick up the card that's underneath it. This is a very important card in the deck, and if you're playing against somebody who's running this and you're playing one of those heavy removal decks, may I just inform you, you need to be careful which Lust you are sidelining, because depending what it is rated on top of is the card you know they will get. You either give them potentially another card, a draw discarder, or a card that can remove a blocker and allow them to push additional damage. It's very difficult for you to figure out which one to target, so be mindful of what they are rated on top of. This card, 10 out of 10, love it. She is fantastic. Absolutely adore this Lust. The next one, sadly, King Bradley comes out of the starter deck. However, if you have 4 copies of him yourself, and if you don't want to buy 4 starter decks, just buy him. You can find somebody who's selling it. When played, choose up to 1 character on your field. It gains this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's trigger abilities until the end of the turn. Again, when you are attacking is the best time to be playing this card. You want to be able to play him targeting one of your things that you can't allow a trigger to really lose you any tempo. So it is very, very key and very, very important to be able to save this for the right moments, or if you absolutely need to play him, debate if it's more proper to AP draw instead. I like saving these Bradley so that I can combo them with Father or combo them with Envy so that my opponent can't just willy-nilly, whoops, okay, well, you're screwed, and then trigger out of life and kill me. The fact that this card can punish people who luck sack out of life is what makes it so incredibly good and fantastic. The next portion of this, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, the cards that are actually going to be winning, starting with Envy. Now, Envy is a raider that we are going to be using quite often. When played, it gains impact until end of turn. So that is a very good line of text. It's one of the things that makes purple CG so powerful is the turn something comes down, you don't want to block it necessarily. Being able to gain impact onto your raider, especially on play, is a fantastic feature. When it attacks, you draw 1 and sideline 1. It's another enabler to be able to fill up your sideline very quickly. It's a good way to smooth out your draw. It's a fantastic card. But the part of this card that is the most unfortunate for your opponent to have to deal with is the when sidelined. Choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. So, if your opponent is staring you down with a couple of double damagers, or they have a couple of shrines on their Sukunas, or whatever else is going to be happening, you can simply go, I chump block your first attack with my Envy, tapping your other guy over there. It is a fantastic way to supplement damage while also pushing damage the turn before. Honestly, this Envy card, I don't understand why it's only $5. The card is insane. The ability to go, I am getting a point of damage in when you play it, and then I'm smoothing out my draw, and then when it is sidelined, I also get to gain value off of it. It's a fantastic card, and you're going to be loving this card and replaying it over and over and over again, just really crushing your opponent. Past that, we're going to go over Father last. We have Lust. Lust, oh, geez, I love all of these cards. The Homunculus cards are so fantastic. When you raid her, when played, draw 2, place 2 cards from your hand into your sideline. Then, if you have 10 or more cards in your sideline, draw an additional card. This is one of the reasons we have so many early game ways of filling up our sideline. If you can, on curve, raid Lust, and that's your 10th card that goes into your sideline that you are discarding yourself, and then draw an additional card, she has effectively become as good as Rukia is. She becomes an utterly insane card. Going, I draw 2, pitch 2, draw 1 is such an absurdly powerful line of text that any card can have. And she also turbos you through your deck and makes it so your opponent does not want to allow you to replay them, which sometimes could be an issue for them because she's a 4K beat stick who keeps attacking. But even if your opponent does do the right thing and removes her, you get to pick up the base card of this rated character. So, you remember all of those cards that were fantastic that she could raid on top of? You have your drawer discarder, you have your color trigger who draws a card if it's a homunculus, or mills yourself, and you had the envy. Yes, envy. This is probably the best raid target for it in the mid game once you're past that 10 card threshold. But being able to have this card come back, replay it next turn, remove their chump blocker, and start threatening with more damage and pressure is an utterly backbreaking feature of this deck. She is a wonderful raider as well. These two cards are how we are pushing that early damage and is more or less how we are going to be trying to win the game. You don't really want to rely on the father to win the game, but you want to be able to set yourself up in a position so that when you father, you do end up winning the game. Speaking of which, father. You can only play, it has a lot of text, so I'm just going to streamline it and make it easier for you. You can only have one of this specific father in play at a time, and you can only play him if you have 20 cards in your sideline. That's it. That's how you can play it. 20 cards in your sideline is very difficult to get to, but this deck likes to turbo through itself. If you have a Nina, that's an easy 2 mill cards. If you have the looters, you draw discard. You draw 2, discard 2. Every time you hit a life trigger, it goes to your sideline, or it's a get trigger that can be a raider. Like you're very easy to just fill up your sideline with this deck. He will not come down on curve on turn 4. I've tried my best, and there's a version of this deck that could, in theory, achieve that, but I don't think it's really going to happen. That's kind of like living the dream. It's fantastic when it does, but it doesn't really happen. However, when played, you choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and sideline it. This can sideline any damn character other than Saitama. So the ability to go, I do 2 AP, it comes in active. Oh yeah, it comes in active, so you can attack with it the turn it hits. I am going to sideline your biggest threat, the scariest thing that you have. I don't care what it is. And then on top of that, it always has double attack and is a 5K. Holy cow. Father being a 5K means he avoids all of the blue triggers that could usually bounce something that is, this potent or powerful. Him having double attack means your opponent really has to be chump blocking him if you've poked a lot of damage with your envies early game, as well as with your lusts. So being able to get those chip damages in early is essential to being able to win this game. If you can't establish yourself early pushing up to get some damage, sadly, you're going to be very hard-pressed to win the game, because this doesn't immediately win the game when it drops onto the field. However, past all of that, it has another line of text. Active main, if this is in your sideline, you can only activate this ability if you have 20 more cards already in your sideline. Discard 3 purple cards, bring it back to your hand. The fact that you can have so many draw triggers, so many get triggers, and then your opponent spends so much to kill it, and you go, you need a minimum of 3 blockers for just this one card, because I'm going to blow up the first one, attack you once, untap, attack you again. Makes this card such a powerful threat. It is a wonderful card to be recurring. Yes, it is the sacrifice of 3 cards from your hand, but boo frickin' who. You're going to get rid of them to be able to pick him up if it's going to win you the game. The reason I say that this should not be your primary goal to be able to win the game is because it's so hard to push through late game when your opponent has established their line perfectly. Now, we do have a couple of more events to go over. This special is actually worth talking about. So, it can always kill a 3K. However, if you have 4 or more homunculus cards on your field, you can either kill a 5K or kill just the 3K, and then mill yourself 2 cards. Place 2 cards from your deck into your sideline. This is a card that I have found to be absolutely fantastic in this deck. The ability to pop off a 3K that attacks you as a 4K, which those are pretty common in our meta currently, and then go, I'm going to mill myself 2 cards, puts you so much closer to being able to play your father. And let me just give everybody a little tip, because I know some people don't have the mental training to be able to conceptualize the game like this. You need to turn your brain off when you are blind milling. Don't look at the card that you milled as a card that you would have drawn. Look at it as a card that is not the other cards in your deck. So every time you mill, you are digging closer to the cards that you want. Even if what you just milled was the cards you wanted, that is just RNG. Throw that out of your mind. It's irrelevant information. Move on. If you can do that with your mental, you are going to be fantastic in these self-mill dredge style decks. You weren't going to get that card anyway, so who cares? That is the mental you should always have. Last, we have Philosopher's Stone, one of the best APs in the game. And then we have this card. Oh boy, is this card good. Homunculi. So, you place the top 2 of your deck into your sideline, then add a purple Homunculus card from your sideline to your hand. This card is such a beating. If you are able to establish early with I'm attacking with Envy Impact, the next turn your opponent's trying to rush and kill you quickly, you go I chump block, save a damage, I tap your other things, save another point of damage, untap my turn, Homunculus mill 2, pick up this Envy, raid the Envy again, I get a point of damage, and you have effectively gotten 2 points of damage off of this 2-card combo while saving yourself 4 points of damage. It is not always going to be that easy to play, but it is one of the cards that makes it so you need to be acutely aware of what raid targets you are playing to the field and which ones are you not playing to the field. I think the card is fantastic and a real strong powerhouse. This card, milling 2, you can also have late game turns where instead of AP drawing, you go, I mill 2 with Homunculi, I pick up Father, I raid Father. Because then you're not discarding all of the cards in your hand. You're just discarding 1 card and spending your whole turn. Again, Father requires your opponent to have 3 blockers to be able to effectively stunt him. On play, kill something. Attack once, untap. Attack a second time. It is such a powerful card. One tip that I need to give everybody, if you're going to be picking this deck up, is unless you absolutely need the energy on your energy line, play this Nina to the front line and chump block with it immediately. When you get her, her entire purpose is to mill you. Unless that card you are about to pick up is a rated Envy, a rated Lust, or a special that you absolutely need no matter what, or you can't play the game, just mill the cards. It is so important to turn through and get to that 10 threshold, and Nina by herself can get you 3 cards because you're just going to chump block with her early if you need to, if you can. The other thing to remember is you really want to be pushing that early damage. You want to get a couple of chip points in to your opponent, force them to retaliate, and then your envies just start smashing and hitting them through. If you get your opponent down to 2 life the turn you're about to play Father, GG's. You're pretty much in there, so long as you don't die to a retaliation the following turn. And another thing, save these Bradleys if you can to either protect your Envy, who's going to be closing out the game, or your Father, who's going to be closing out the game. One play I frequently like to make is if I have multiple things on the front line getting free damage in against my opponent, you know how we're doing, I would go King Bradley, save Envy. And Envy will be the last thing I attack with because it has impact. It was going to guarantee get through, barring an active trigger. You doing that means your opponent has to go, my life triggers will not save me that damage. I need to save my own damage. So being able to push in with your other characters in that instance is going to be really, really good. So keep in mind, you're sequencing with this Bradley on Envy or any other character that you want to be attacking with last is going to be super duper important. Now, the last thing for us to discuss is how this deck measures up in the current meta. I'm going to be honest with you. It has a horrendous blue matchup. Blue decks have too much RNG to go, oops, I win the game. You have to get chip damage in early, and they capitalize on having damage done to them better than anybody else. In fact, I think it's gate kept because of the other blue decks. All of your win sideline abilities don't even trigger because, well, they're going to probably bounce those cards to your hand instead of killing them. And if you're playing the blue decks, you want to bounce Envy, you want to bounce Lust. You do not want to sideline them if you can help it. Unless you have Nanami's special and then you go, bottom of deck, hee hee. Which case, yes, go ahead, do that. But yeah, because of all of that, I don't think it's going to be very good at the top tier of our meta. However, against all of the heavy removal decks, oh boy, is this one fun as well. FMA seems to have given us some of the most resilient decks that we've had in NA. They're decks that go, I don't care if my things die. I actively get things from that. So them going, I'm going to sideline this, I'm going to sideline that. They're filling up your sideline. You're getting more energy, or not energy, more card advantage because of it. You're stopping them from attacking you. You're stopping their aggression. And then you have Homunculus to be able to pick it up afterwards, or Homunculi. It is fantastic into those matchups. So I think in a purple dominant meta, this deck is going to absolutely crush them. However, if we're not in a purple dominant meta, yeah, it's going to suffer a little bit against the other blue decks. I don't really see anything else in top tier other than blue or purple currently, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's going to be everything on this deck itself. I think I went over most of the combos. Yeah. So, everybody, thank you very much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and look out for the next video as well. See ya.